Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
God, I assume Tom.
Nadine Crocker, how are you today?
I am amazing. How are you?
Listen, I get to talk to you. You do so. This is your directorial debut. You got some heavy hitters right out the gate in Desperation Road. What's it like? You know, right from the get-go, you sit there. You get to work with Mel Gibson. You get to sit there and work with Garrett, Hedlund, and so many other people creating this new Southern noir thriller.
Yeah, I mean, it was such an incredible experience. I honestly am still kind of pinching myself, but I got to work with such incredible artists on this film. And I'm so excited for everyone to see what we created out there and in record time. You know, that's how productions kind of go in Los Angeles nowadays. You're like, hi, you have 5 minutes, go make a movie, you know? So honestly, the fact that I got to work with such incredible pros, I feel so lucky. And their performances are breathtaking. I can't wait for the world to see.
And Lionsgate, right from the get-go, one of the biggest production companies out there distributing the film. You know, Lionsgate came out of nowhere, you know, and blew up quick. So congratulations on working with them. I know they've had that decade progression, but, you know, people forgot about them for a while.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Lionsgate has been the most supportive, the most kind, and like incredible people to work with. And we have other projects now going together. And I feel so lucky to get to with them. They're extremely supportive of filmmakers and their stories and, you know, honoring those stories. And they're an incredible studio. I mean, I still literally every time the movie starts and I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh my God, you know, it's just that surreal feeling because as a person who grew up like loving cinema, I mean, cinema is how I survived, you know, I was like a drama nerd, I just loved film. Like that's how I escaped and, you know, just lived in that world. And so to be doing what I've dreamt of doing since I was a young girl is just like, it's that surreal moment. There's nothing but gratitude right now and nerves, excitement, you know, I just can't wait for everyone to see what we created.
And especially with the movie coming out October 6th.
Yeah, October 6th.
You know, when you present a Southern noir like this, Southern noir has kind of had a resurgence in the last 5-6 years. And there's something about that genre that takes place in the Deep South because it almost seems like mysterious, not in the sense of like, you know, like a Dracula type mystery, but in a horror sense where you never know what's going to be around the corner because there's so much swampland and people are secretive, you know, not too many people are revealing. What was it like wanting to tell this particular story in that type of setting?
I mean, honestly, that's like half of what excited me so much about the story is that you have these beautiful characters and you have these incredible storylines and it's just like this message you can really grasp. But for me, like that Southern noir, like everything you said is what I put in my lookbook. I was like, you have no idea like what's lurking back or what's staring back when you're in the waters or when you're, you know, it's just like there is this eerie nature to it that almost feels a little bit desolate. And that was one of the things I tried to really lean in, especially because the movie starts, I tend to start my films with a bang. And it starts with our female lead going through a very hard experience. And that thrusts us into the story. And it was just like, one of the big things I wanted you to feel was that isolation. Like you can drive out there deep in the South and like, there's nothing around, you know? And like, I think that's one of the eerie things about it, exactly what you're mentioning.
You know, when you work with a writer like Michael Farris Smith and you come together on this project, like how many pages in were you in reading his script that go, all right, I have to do this?
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to answer this question honestly. I definitely take my time with making decisions like this because for me, what we put our voice to what we, it just has to have a lot of different elements for me. It has to have a message that is important to me. It has to have characters. Like, it has to say something truly important, especially like, I just believe as filmmakers, like we leave our family behind. We like leave our life for months at a time. You work in the shadows while no one's watching for a year, shot listing and doing all of these things. So I read the script several times. I read the book. I really I like to dive in before I make these decisions, and then gathered my thoughts. And the decision was really made when I sat down. I was like, okay, I've read everything. Now it's time to sit down with Michael and see how this feels. Like, how is this a fit? And from the second we had our first call together, I was like, okay, I'm in love with you. Okay, we're doing this. Like, you're one of my favorite people. And he just was so supportive. And because he was, the crazy thing is this is actually my second film, but it beat my first film out to distribution. And that film is coming out later. Michael, I say that all just to say Michael really connected with my first film. So he was kind of all in on trust, and I was all in. And so we just started really playing and collaborating. And that's when we like fine-tuned the story to be, the perfect balance for both of us and what was important to both of us, as me as a mother and as, a woman. It was just, there was a lot of things that were really important to me for our main lead, Maven, and just all of these different aspects. And I always have a mental health aspect, and like Michael supported that in such a huge way, and like finding our way to bring that into the film. And so, yeah, it was, it definitely took me, I do all of my reading and my research, but it took like 5 minutes of talking to Michael, and I was like, I'm in, let's go. Can we film next week?
Right. Whereas your other film is called Continue, that you said was going to be distributed later this year. I want to ask this question. Since you wrote and directed that, and this one you directed, is it easier to direct somebody else's written work or an adaptation of somebody else's work, rather than being married to the written page as the writer and then coming to terms with it as the director that it might not fit the visual narrative?
No, I love directing my own writing because I've seen every single aspect of it. I understand the characters because a lot of times they're based on people from my life or from different like situations. And so I feel like there's not a question I don't know the answer to when I write it myself. What was an interesting feeling, luckily Michael did let me really collaborate in the writing process. So by the end of it, I felt like it was my own, if that makes sense. Like, we just, everything that was important to me, like we collaborated in such a beautiful way. But it did start with me being like, okay, I have questions, like why and like we just dive in and we'd find if there were answers he didn't know them together. And so it was a really beautiful process. And I think it's changed a lot of things for me, because now I have a lot of other projects going, and some of them based on books and some of them based on, other film, like foreign language films and just different things. So it was a great experience for me to work with a novelist and get to work with also someone else's writing and realize how I can collaborate and bring in my own flavors as well and make sure it honors all of us, and so it was the most exciting learning lesson.
This is going to be my final question for you, because I know we have to wrap this up. And again, we're going to remind everybody that Desperation Road comes out on October 6th from Lionsgate. I'm one of those people that if I read the book, I don't want to watch the movie, or if I watch the movie first, I don't want to go back and read the book. How do you find the balance of the adaptation from the written word in the novel form to now wheedling it down to 130 to 90 minutes to 120 minutes?
It's definitely a process, because one of the things about novels is you are constantly hearing the character's inner thought, and that is kind of what helps us to connect with these characters and then sit through 230 or however many pages it is. And with film, unless you have narration, that doesn't happen. You have to portray it through their actions, through the things that are not said, so it's definitely a balance. And then at that point, you just have to focus on the story, in my mind, and what is the most important parts of the story to convey the message that's important to us, so it was definitely challenging. And it was also definitely challenging because Michael Farris Smith is a novelist. So as a novelist and him, the first draft of the script, you're like, this is long and we don't have enough days for this, you know? So like what we have to do is go, how do we strip away while not feeling like we lose anything? And that really is a balance. And also wanting to pay homage and honor the book, which is an incredible book, but also, you know, change things for a narrative film. Like, you know, there are different things. Like in the book, I feel like you can be a little bit more open-ended or this, that, and the other. And with like a film, I'm like, I think people like closure, you know, like you go on a long, thrilling, stressful journey. Like we just want to know that it all works out in the end. So there's just little things that, you know, we adapted and changed, but I do believe that people who were a fan of the book will love what we did with the film because it still has all of that beauty. If anything, we just added even more beauty.
Fantastic. Nadine Crocker, thank you so much for your time. Let us know where we can find you on social media to continue the conversation about Desperation Road upon its release date on October 6th.
Yes, I'm on Instagram. I'm at Nadine Crocker. I post all about all the fun coming out and the rest of Desperation Road's press and excitingness. And we'll have some clips coming out soon. And yeah, please go see it on October 6th.